Hello, everybody. Welcome to this new lesson. Today we are going to talk about comparative and superlative adjectives. So, have you ever wondered how can you describe things, animals, and others correctly? In this lesson, you will learn. In this lesson, you will learn to compare people, places, and things using comparatives and superlatives, helping you describe differences and extremes confidently. Here you have some rules about forming comparatives and superlatives. Pay attention and take notes. Well, when you have one syllable adjective, generally form the comparative by adding er and the superlative with est. For example, the adjective is soft, the comparative is softer, and the superlative is the softest. Cheap, cheaper, the cheapest. Sweet, sweeter, the sweetest. Thin, thinner, the thinnest. So now it's your turn to practice the first rule. Now let's analyze some spelling rules. Know that if one syllable adjective ends in a single vowel letter followed by a single consonant letter, the consonant letter is double. For example, thin. You have to double the letter N. Thinner. Big. Double the letter G. Biggest. If an adjective ends in E, this is removed when adding ER or EST, like wide, wider, widest. If an adjective ends in a consonant followed by Y, the Y is replaced by I. For example, dry, drop the Y and just write dryer, driest. Practice. Now, two syllable adjectives. If you have two syllable adjectives which end in Y, usually form the comparative by adding ER and the superlative by adding EST. For example, lucky. The adjective is lucky. And why is two syllable? Because you say lucky, two syllable. The comparative is luckier, and the superlative, the luckiest. Pretty, prettier, the prettiest. Tidy, tidier, the tidiest. Now, what happens if you have two syllable adjectives? Well, you know that some adjectives ending ed, ing, full or less, always form the comparative with more and the superlative with the most. Worried. It has two syllables, yes, but it's not possible to add er. So, like it ends in ed, it's necessary to add more. For example, worried, more worried, and the superlative, the most worried. Boring, more boring, the most boring. And others. And the same happen if you have three syllable adjectives. It means that more than one. Dangerous. So add more and the most according with superlative, comparative, and others. The only exceptions are some three-syllable adjectives which have been formed by adding the prefix on to another adjective, especially those formed from an adjective ending in y. These adjectives can form comparatives and superlatives by using more, most, or adding est or er. For example, unhappy. So you could say unhappier or the unhappiest, the most unhappy. So both options are correct. The most important thing is that you have to memorize the irregular adjectives. Why? Because they change completely. So, for example, if the adjective is good, the comparative is better, and the superlative is the best. Bad, worse, the worst. For, you have two options farther, further, or the farthest and the furthest. Those irregular adjectives is necessary to memorize so you can practice every day. Remember, we have more than just three that you can see here. Those are the more common. Once you know how to apply the rules for comparatives and superlatives, now we are gonna to be more specific. When to use comparatives? Well, comparatives are very common, followed by then and a pronoun or noun group in order to describe who the other person or thing involved in the comparison. For example, John is taller than me. So remember that the adjective is tall. So in this case, like it's a short adjective, you just have to add er. And the comparison you are gonna to do between two people, animals, or things. Another one. I think that she's more intelligent than her sister. So you got it. Other use of comparatives. Well, comparatives are often qualified by using words and phrases such as much, a lot, for, a bit, little, slightly, etc. You should go by train. It could be much cheaper. Could you be a bit quieter, please? I am feeling a lot better. Do you have one that's slightly bigger? Well, two comparatives can be contrasted by placing the before them. For example, the smaller the girth, the easier it is to scent. What it show? Well, so that indicate a change in one quality is linked to a change in another. What about the use of superlatives? Well, like comparatives, superlatives can be placed before a noun in the attribute position or occur after another linked verbs. For example, the most delicious chocolate cake I've ever eaten. Annabelle was the youngest. So remember that superlatives you are going to use to compare in a group of people. That's all. So please now it's your turn to practice. Remember that you have some activities in the booklet. It's important to mention that we have opposites, the opposites of comparatives and superlatives. So for that, we use the forms less, that is the opposite of comparative more, and the least, that is the opposite of superlative the most. Read carefully this information and remember Comparatives and superlatives are used with adjectives. Thanks for coming to this class. Remember that today we have talked about comparatives and superlative adjectives. Comparatives to describe between two people, animals, or things, and superlatives to describe in a group of something. So, I see you in the next lesson. And please practice because it makes you perfect. Bye bye.